end here okay, is that right? Oh. Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. So happy to have some time with you this morning. It's Tuesday for anybody who needs that. We are very excited to have a conversation today about a program that we're launching on September 9th. If you've been following our social media, you've been seeing us talk about it. It's our 21-day Racial Justice and Social Justice Challenge. And we are very excited. As you know, our mission here at the YWCAs across the country and obviously here in Northern New Jersey is to focus on eliminating racism and empowering women. And we have a call to action to all of you right now. We need to stand together. We need to train and learn so that we can be a more effective team to eliminate racism, because we do believe that it can be done, but it really can only be done if we're doing it together, shoulder to shoulder. And we are so grateful to our sister association from Greater Cleveland, who launched this 21-day challenge in March of 2019. And we were able to monitor their work with it and bring it here to New Jersey. So again, this is a call to challenge. We're asking every leader in our community, whether you run a business, whether you're in government, whether you run a nonprofit, or if you're not connected to any of those entities, if you're in a faith-based institution, if you're just someone who's not connected to anyone and you're just an individual, this opportunity is for you. And you should bring it to your entire network. This is a time, as I said, we really need to stand together on these racial justice issues that are very present in our lives, in our world, and we need to stand against racism together. And this is a wonderful opportunity, as we said, to build some habits, some good habits, to educate yourself and to learn about issues that have to deal with race and power and privilege and leadership. And together, our plan is to build a group of community leaders. And it starts with an individual journey that we will take you on through this 21-day challenge. But I am excited to let you know that we've got folks here to talk to us about how it rolled out in Cleveland. And we also have one of our partners who will be joining us here in New Jersey. So we're gonna have a great conversation. So for those of you that don't know, the challenge was originally developed by Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. and Debbie Irving, and it's been adapted by many organizations across the country. We also want to recognize Food Solutions New England. They also were part of the inspiration for this challenge. They were the first to adapt an exercise from Dr. Moore and Debbie Irving's book, and they put that into an interactive 21-day challenge, which launched in 2014, believe it or not, 6 years ago. But now we're grateful that our YWCA here in Northern New Jersey is part of a network of over 200 YWs across the country. And together we have banded to make sure that this is a collaborative effort, that we are rolling out this challenge across our country, because we believe that through our perspective and our power and our reach, that we can reach our vital mission of eliminating racism and creating a more just and peaceful world. So I'm so proud and grateful to have my sister CEO from the YWCA of Greater Cleveland, Margaret Mitchell, with me today. Welcome, Margaret. And I'm also grateful to have Northern New Jersey Girl Scouts President and CEO Betty Garger with us. They are one of the agencies here locally that are partnering on the challenge. So let's start with talking a little bit about the challenge itself, Margaret. And so let me share with you all a little bit about Margaret. She joined the YWCA of Greater Cleveland in 2011, and under her leadership, she's transformed its preschool into an unduplicated trauma-informed therapeutic model, serving homeless families with children's ages 3 to 5. She leads a community-level collective impact collaborative to prevent the end of youth homelessness in Greater Cleveland, and put the organization on track to financial health, reversing decades of deficits funding. And with that, she was also the president and CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Greater Cleveland prior, where she took an ailing nonprofit and turned around the board of directors. She grew revenue, she grew reserves, and transformed the agency into a quality performance culture. So we're so happy to have you and all of your magic with us this morning, Margaret. Welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you guys implementing this 21-day social equity and racial justice challenge in Cleveland.
Thanks, Helen. It's really great to be with you and Betty this morning. And I will tell you that in 2018, we were working with two other organizations around our homeless work to really dig in and understand how homelessness and racism intersect, and to begin to dig in and dismantle those systems. And along the way, we were also doing a lot of work internally. As you know, we walk into a building, or did walk into a building, or our mission is eliminating racism and empowering women. And, you know, for years, that sort of lived in a very disjointed way in Cleveland. And, you know, we would do a little bit of cultural competency or a little bit of diversity inclusion, but our work is really around dismantling racism. So what does that mean? What does it look like? How do you do that? And so we were having all of those tough questions in our organization. And in 2018, we never saw a challenge, but we heard about this challenge, you know, 21 days of a racial equity and social justice challenge. And it just sparked an idea. And we decided in 2018 that we would do the challenge, we would build a challenge and do it as a staff development tool. And so that was the primary driver behind the entire challenge, was having a tool that we could use with our staff. You know, we were, you know, I have to tell you that a lot of times we, as a YWCA, don't always connect our quote unquote non-racial equity work into structural racism. And
Right.
It is absolutely, I mean, how can you be involved in, I know you still have elements of a swim and gym model in New Jersey, but to understand structurally how recreation has been pulled out of Black and brown neighborhoods. And as a result of that, that has an impact on Girl Scouts. That has an impact on the number of drowning deaths. That has impact because of structural racism. But when we don't make those connections for our staff, people believe that we're disconnected because we are disconnected from it. Mm-hmm. And so it was purely a staff driven. And at the end, as we make the decision to do this for the staff, I have this idea, like maybe other people in the community would want to do it with us. And I think the first hour we sent out the email, 200 people signed up. And in 2019, when we launched the challenge, we had 1,500 people. That grew to 2,500 people. And it's just, in 2020, it doubled again. So, and of course now, you know, about 20 other YWCAs have done it, and it's game changing. It was game changing for us internally. So.
Well, I'm so fascinated that it started for the staff, and I'm interested in asking you a question about that, because as Betty knows, we both are part of a collective, a community collective here of nonprofits. One of our wonderful funding agencies, the Community Chest, pulls us together for regular meetings. And this has been a discussion of our group of nonprofit CEOs and executive directors. And, you know, I think, you know, as YWs, it's interesting to hear you have the same struggle that I had when I joined the organization 10 years ago. I mean, eliminating racism is such a lofty mission, right? And where do you start with that? and that you really can feel like you're doing something measurable, to make an impact. So when we're thinking about rolling this out with our staff, because obviously it's important that exactly what you're, obviously saying about systemic racism, and that if our staff does not understand the link and the connection of our work, how can we really bring it out into our community the way that we want to? And so it is so important for leadership of organizations like ours that are working, with underserved communities to make sure that we understand this work, before we're out, talking into and sharing services in our communities. So what did your staff look like at the time when you rolled this out, and how did they embrace it? I mean, what was the makeup of your staff? I'm curious because I think other nonprofit CEOs, and we're going to talk to Betty about her decision to join on, and she joined on quickly and fast and furious up front, clearly. But everyone has not been so quick to do that, and I hear different reasonings for that. But I'm curious, so that we can maybe speak to some of our executive directors and CEOs of nonprofits, about the importance of this and what the staff looked like and how we engaged them.
Yeah, our staff is 60% African American and 40% white or Latinx, and we are 90% female. And I will tell you that bringing racial equity into your organization is like any new change management initiative, right? You are bringing a level of change into the status quo, and it will be met with resistance. And so I think a lot of times people believe that all Black people have an encyclopedic knowledge of the African diaspora, and that is not true. And I can tell you that my chief program officer, who is an African-American female, really created some of the most resistance early on when we pivoted to focus internally on developing our racial equity muscle. And, a lot of times people are really, surprised by that. And, she tells her story, and it is, fascinating, but it really is, this work challenges everyone. And this work is difficult for everyone. But my life is difficult every. So, we've just, it is really time to be truth tellers and to do this very difficult, hard work. We've been on this journey for 4 years, and I can tell you that where we started and where we are today, in our policies, our practices, and our norms internally are light years apart. So it is scary. There's a lot of feeling around how can I lead this work? I'm not an expert in this. How can I, lead out on these conversations? And really what I want to encourage you, Betty and Helen, is to think about entering into a learning conversation and a learning community and a learning culture, and your ability to share information that is new to you, examine your own biases, just as it's the same thing that I do. That is really what is going to develop and support your entire organization as you move forward. We believe that racial equity is a leadership asset. Just as you have business acumen and you have financial acumen, you tell me how you cannot have racial equity as a leadership asset in the community you are in, the work you are doing, the work that you want to advance, the recognition of structural racism in America. How are you not able to acquire? You must have an appetite, for this, and it will be uncomfortable. It will be scary when you do not have the expertise to lean on, there is a very high level of vulnerability, but it is absolutely key. And being able to maintain that vulnerability is what will help advance your work. Now, we have grown in the work, and we have led a movement in Cleveland, in our county, and across the state of Ohio to declare racism as a public health crisis. And, you know, we got there, right? So the 21-day challenge is a tool for what? And, you know, our goal, our focus is dismantling racism. That is our mission. And we found that the quote unquote programs, you know, fell short of really doing that work of dismantling. And, you know, declaring racism a public health crisis is big, hairy, scary, audacious, and it is difficult. It is difficult work now that we are in doing it, but it is amazing, and it is so to really be doing the work, right? And to use the 21-day challenge as a tool in the community to help people understand why racism must be declared a public health crisis. So that is, you know, that I just encourage you. It is going to feel foreign, but you know, your board chair should be saying to every single board member, this is a priority for all of us. Utilize your board meetings, utilize your staff meetings, work with your management team or your directors or your supervisors to dig in and equip them to be able to support regular conversations, and then to begin to link, right, their work, what they do on a regular basis, into understanding how does racism show up in this space.
Yes, and we've been fortunate here in New Jersey to bring the Undoing Racism training to Bergen County last spring for the first time. And well, I should say not last spring we were all indoors, but the spring before, you know, we brought it to New Jersey for the first time. And I think that was probably in Bergen County one of the first times we were able to have these very candid conversations about how did racism start? Where did it, you know, where are the origins? And we started a journey of a group of about 25 of us that, you know, was very introspective, and we were all leaders in different parts of our community, you know, to be able to start to bring this information back. What I love about this challenge, though, is, you know, we know that in order to really impact structural racism and to really be having these conversations with our staff, you know, with our organizations, with our businesses, with our families, you know, and, you know, all the places we need to have them, you know, you need to do a little bit of work individually first, and alongside a parallel all the way through. So this challenge really gives the opportunity, you know, to do that, and to do it in a way that, you know, you can challenge yourself, challenge your own implicit bias, as you shared earlier, and, you know, with that, learn and then and grow. So I love that. And, you know, I also want to say to the white leadership that's out there, like myself, you know, very often, and I've had this conversation with other leaders of nonprofits, you know, and businesses and organizations who are white, about how scary it is that they want to start these conversations, they want to lead these conversations, but they don't feel equipped because they feel they're white and that they're, you know, they're not in a place to do that. But, you know, part of this process and eliminating racism and doing this work is for ourselves as white people, learning to be an ally, learning to understand. And the race challenge gives us a good place to start for that. This isn't the end. This isn't the check off. You're not done after you do the 21-day challenge, but it's definitely a place to start that process. Betty, I'd love to just switch to you for a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Please, Margaret, you had something on your tip of your tongue I could see. Please share, and then I'll go to Betty.
I think it's really important that we not just think of our white colleagues as allies, but really, co-contributors. African Americans are 13% of this population. We certainly must have those that are in power, which is often very, white-centered, who are engaging in the processes of dismantling. If you put me in charge, I would have done the work a long time ago. But it is critical. It is critical that white leadership not only gain this muscle, but get in and start doing the really difficult and challenging process of doing. Right.
Yeah.
This is a duology. Really, asking how does racism show up? What do we do? What would the counter look to that? And that is where we are now. And I think so critical of this moment. If you have a Black Lives Matter, sign in your front yard, then you need to be, getting to it with making real and decisive change. And, if it's scary and you're, then you're moving in the right direction.
Yes, I agree. And I've actually said that as well. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a learning, but we have to stand up and, be active and be shoulder to shoulder and in this together, all of us, for sure. So Betty, let me introduce Betty to everyone and give everyone a little background. She is the president and CEO of Girl Scouts Northern New Jersey, and in her role there, she's been since November of 2012, and she's responsive for the delivery and management of Girl Scouts leadership for more than 24,000 girls in Bergen, Morris, Passaic, Sussex, and Northern Warren counties here in New Jersey. And she also has the support of 12,000 adult volunteers to be able to serve those girls. She oversees the operation of 4 regional offices, as well as 3 camp properties. She's passionate about the Girl Scouts mission and driven to offer Girl Scouting to every girl, no matter what their zip code is or their family socioeconomic status. And through her leadership, Girl Scouts of Northern New Jersey has offered signature STEM programming, financial literacy activities, and outdoor opportunities for girls in kindergarten through grade 12 in an all-girls setting. She herself is someone who, as a child, experienced gender discrimination. And I have to say, as a fellow nonprofit CEO here in our area together, obviously we do a lot of work closely, and I was so grateful that she stood up quickly, to join forces, and that she reached out to be part of this opportunity. So Betty, obviously, as we said, you're someone who did experience gender discrimination as a child. Tell us today about your work with girls, and also from that, what created this link for you to be part of this challenge. I've been talking about it in our circles for, especially since, March of this year, been having a lot of conversations, and everyone didn't stand up so quickly and jump in to join as you did. So tell me a little bit about what, and I'm grateful for that. But I'd love to hear, where that came from, because I'm really looking to motivate some of our counterparts, to also understand and join on this journey.
Well, thank you, Helen, for being here. And Margaret, is so great to be with you as well. And the reason I jumped in so quickly was really because I was looking, as Margaret said, for a tool. This is a very uncomfortable conversation for many people, but it's a necessary conversation. And Girl Scouts are known for being inclusive. We want to be here for every Girl Scout, but honestly, we don't. We are not serving. In my jurisdiction, I am not serving 13% of my members are not African American. And why is that? And that's what I want to dig deep into. But I also started, as Margaret said, about the staff, for staff to be educated. You know, my staff are caring, wonderful people who work really hard to promote the Girl Scout mission and support our volunteers and our girls. But what is it that we're missing, that we're not able to serve girls equally across our jurisdiction? And so that was when, you know, COVID, it's already a very uncomfortable time since March. And then of course, with all of the horrible, you know, murders of Black people across the country, you know, the awareness, but what is the education? What piece are we missing? And so, you know, I agree, this is a tool, this is a beginning. It's obviously a lot of information that people need to be aware of. And, you know, we talk about systems, you know, as Margaret said, you know, what is it that we can do? How are we meeting our volunteers? Where are we meeting them? You know, we work with a lot of houses of worship, but what can we do if you didn't grow up a Girl Scout or you didn't have that experience? A lot of our girls are from families that have Girl Scouts, but there's a lot of girls out there who didn't have that opportunity, and we want to provide that to them. And from me experiencing gender discrimination as a child, I have a vivid story about 5th grade and not being allowed to try out for the soccer team because I was a girl. And I didn't know I had a voice. I was 10 or 11. I went home and that was that. But I want girls to know they have a voice. I want every girl to know that she can speak up for herself and that she has caring adults who will speak up with her. You know, talking about many years ago, and my parents were just like, well, that's that. You're not allowed to join. But I want people to know that they could stand up and say, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And obviously, racial discrimination, social justice, racial equity, our youth are part of this, and they want to know more and they want to be educated. So we're starting with the adults with the 21-day challenge. It's mandatory for my staff. We rolled it out yesterday to encourage our volunteers to join. As Margaret said, our board will be joining. But we want families, you know, parents of Girl Scouts and grandparents of Girl Scouts to join as well, because we don't know what we don't know. And that's part of the education process. I was raised that you don't talk about race, you know, everyone's equal. And, you know, we love everyone. And, you know, especially in the Girl Scouts, we're a sister to every Girl Scout, but we can't be colorblind and we can't let that uncomfortableness get in our way. We have to be able to speak up. We have to be able to learn, you know, that this is education. This is a process of finding out things that I didn't know. You know, how did we talk about New Jersey is so diverse, but it's not diverse in neighborhoods. It's, you know, diverse in overall population, you know, demographics, but, you know, people tend to live in a neighborhood with people who look like them. And how did that happen? And, you know, people don't know about redlining, and people don't know about, you know, not being able to get the GI Bill if you were an African-American who served our country. People don't know these things. And so I think sometimes people just assume, well, this is how it is, but it doesn't have to be. And that's my passion, is for people to know that we can do better and we have to do better. And I want that to be able to have Girl Scouts, you know, we talk about civics. We want girls to know that it's important to know about the local government, because local government is where most of these laws are made, and things that impact you every day are locally, you know, local and state, you know, and studies show that most Americans don't know there's 3 branches of the government. But we want people to know that, and that there's differences, and how do we go about impacting change if we don't know what's happening. So that's one of the things we're really focused on, the Girl Scouts as well, is the civics piece, so that we can get our voice heard. And I think that this 21-day challenge, as Helen said, I heard about it from Margaret, from my counterpart in Northeast Ohio, Jane, who's amazing and wonderful. And she's like, we're doing this with the YW. And I called Helen, and Helen's like, we're getting that started too. And I'm like, we need to be on board. I want to promote this. I want to be part of this. I want people to learn what they don't know and be changed by it. It's not just an education. It's about change. It's about reflection. It's about how do we move forward from here. And that's all part of the Girl Scouts. You know, we discover, connect, and take action. So we need to discover what we don't know. We need to connect with others, and then we really need to take action.
Well, I'm so grateful for your leadership and modeling this for other CEOs and nonprofit leadership, because as I shared, I am a firm believer that this needs to be something that everyone in our community is doing, whether they're running a large corporation, a small business, they're involved in a faith-based organization, that everyone needs to start to engage, embrace, and this is a wonderful, wonderful place to do it. So Margaret, I have a question for you. Obviously, you know, before we went live, we talked a little bit about it, but for, you know, for those watching, you know, obviously we see this as, for many, the beginning. And as I have shared, and, you know, we saw such, after the George Floyd murder and, you know, so many other, you know, situations that hit the news kind of back to back in that cluster, people for the first time, you know, in more recent times, really came together, you know, shoulder to shoulder. Different kinds of people all came together for the first time. And we saw this movement on social media where everyone was doing posts and changing their profile picture to a black box and kind of getting engaged. You know, how do we keep people, and how are you in Ohio? You know, what's your next step? I mean, you've gotten so many people, over 2,000 plus, engaged in this 21-day challenge. What are you doing as your next step with these folks that you've engaged to keep, you know, moving towards our collective mission?
Well, I think there's just a number of things that we're doing. As I mentioned before, our city and our county have declared racism as a public health crisis. Last year in 2019, in November of 2019, we held a summit here, a 2-day summit to commemorate the 400 years of slavery. We had over 500 people joining us, and did really a deep historical overview with national speakers. We had Isabel Wilkerson, who kicked us off, and so many others, and workshops to really take a deep dive in understanding the historical aspects of the inequities that we see today. And so we, at the end of that summit was when we declared racism is a public health crisis. So we are very involved in helping people to link to that. I am very involved with this city of Cleveland as we begin the process of engaging the community and the municipality around looking at the current structures in place, and beginning to identify where and how structural racism, you know, is impeding our communities. And so we are doing sort of that you know, sort of very sort of complex, ambiguous, difficult work. But we are also getting ready to host Robin DiAngelo on October 9th. I hope you all will join us. It will be a virtual session, and I hope you will be there. You know, out of that session in 2021, we hope, well, we are planning to launch a number of white-centered cohorts to begin the process of not just building allyship, but really beginning to activate you know, our white community in support of dismantling racism. And so those are a few of the things that we are doing. We do forums much like this, which we call Go Live for Equity. And we have a number coming up. We have the head of diversity and inclusion from NASCAR, who's going to join us. NASCAR has been on, we all know what they have done recently, but this has been a journey for them. And, you know, Betty, I just loved what you had to say about what you're doing internally, because it truly is, the work we do internally is going to be expressed and present, and we become stronger in our external work. But if you're not doing the work internally, you can't really get to, in an authentic way, that that external work. And so they do speak to each other, and the internal work has to happen because that is the building block, that you stand on. So we have a new strategic plan that focuses on racial equity, and this is the second strategic plan during my leadership. And I'll tell you that the first strategic plan didn't have racial equity mentioned in it one time. And so, people have asked me how that could be or why was that, we build nonprofits in order to be fundable by a white-centered philanthropic system. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So I have one of the things you mentioned earlier too was, kind of taking this information and now pulling it together in a way to share with youth. You had talked a little bit about that too, and I know that that's obviously an area where Betty's group is focused as well. I'm interested in you sharing a little bit about that with our viewers also, and the importance of that happening.
Yeah, I really think it's incredibly important. The YWCA, we have a very strong commitment to young women. And so Girl Scouts obviously is a natural partner for us. And, structural racism is systems, it is privilege and power. And it is, when you're in it, it is often hard to recognize. And because it's systems of power and privilege that's a norm for us. We're so accustomed to it. And so, being able to build a challenge, that is youth focused is really exciting for us. And we're just like over the moon for the opportunity.
Oh, I love that you're bringing it to that space as well, and those of us in our area, and Betty, who clearly is already a strong partner in this work, we'll be watching and looking to share that here in northern New Jersey as well. Betty, for those of our counterparts here locally that are still considering getting involved, what's a final message from you to them about the importance of engaging? You so, I think, eloquently articulated why it's important to you and your organization. But what message do you have for our counterparts about why it should be important for them and their organizations too?
Well, Helen, I know that we've had some conversations in our calls, our Zoom calls. People are afraid. People are afraid to say the wrong thing, to step on someone's toes, to be thought of as a racist. People are scared, and we have to get past that. And, Margaret mentioned Robin DiAngelo. You have to get past your own whiteness, your own white fragility. I'm a white woman, and I never really thought about that until recently. What does that mean for me and for my family? And I think that's how, and I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but many people who are white were raised that it's not nice to talk about race. And guess what? We have to talk about race. It's part of who we are. It's part of our being. And I know some of our counterparts are nervous that they may offend someone. But guess what? We've been offending people unintentionally for many, many, many years. So let's get past our own. I tell my team all the time, we're going to have some very uncomfortable conversations, and you have to get past making sure that everyone is comfortable. Because you know what? There are many people out there who aren't comfortable and have never been comfortable. So it's not me. I should not be worrying about my own comfort. I should be, and I appreciate what Margaret says about a public health crisis.
Yeah.
People's lives are at stake here, and we need to talk about that. We need to acknowledge it, and we need to get educated, and we need to find out what we can do to make everyone's life better. And especially for me, working with girls and youth, I want every girl, as you said, to have opportunity and to have equal opportunity. And I just don't want it to be lip service. And so for me and to my counterparts, let's get past ourselves and let's dive deep and do what we can to make the world a better place for everyone. And so that's really, I know it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what can I do? What can I say? I can't change the world myself, but you know what? It's what we teach our girls. It's what we teach everyone. We just have to do a little bit. If we all did a little bit, we didn't be in such a better place. And so for me and to our CEO counterparts, let's just get on board. It's 21 days. Let's see where we go. And let's talk about things that need to be talked about and not just, worry about offending someone or making someone uncomfortable. It's going to happen, and we have to get past that.
Well, thank you for that. And I could really talk to you ladies for keep going and keep going. I do want to ask one more question before we wind down to Margaret. For the CEOs and those that are running companies that are thinking about the fact that so many people are still working remotely right now, and maybe thinking or using that as a barrier to starting these conversations right now. What are some thoughts that you can share with them to help move them through that thinking to embracing this challenge and this work right now?
Well, I think the challenge is really well suited for a virtual environment because it is a virtual challenge, and you receive an email daily, and it is possible to set up Zoom meetings or Microsoft Team meetings, do breakout sessions. And I think the opportunity to just experience the challenge and then to be able to go back through week by week. There are a number of questions and prompts throughout the challenge that are there, for you as a guide. And there is a lot of learning. I don't think anyone comes away. I come away, I see every piece of material, before it is launched. And yet, when I experience the 21-day challenge, I'm still like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And so I think the opportunity to create a learning community is there, and that there aren't any real barriers because of the way this challenge is set up to have an experience both individually and as an organization or a team. So being able to support your supervisors, your directors, in ensuring that this is a conversation not just happening at a staff level, but also happening at a team level, is really, what we have found as exciting. And sometimes, people, we've really grown in this space, and so all of our teams have written equity plans. But initially, some teams are like, well, how does this relate to our work, right? Our development team, right? How does development and structural racism get together? And then as they begin to dig in and recognize philanthropy as a white-centered system, and how do we adjust ourselves to respond to that or not respond to that? And what would look differently if we were to bring our authentic self? What bias do we have within philanthropy? So it unleashes a whole host of questions and thoughts, and it is really powerful to go down this road and recognize what we want to do differently in concrete ways, and help others to see how it shows up as well, in order to begin, the process of dismantling. So you all are among the willing. That's what we call you, the willing. And but you will, through the challenge, reach those that are, just outside of the willing. And I'm telling you, they're on our teams, they're in our communities, and we are not, it's so important when you think about Ivan Kennedy and his work, around anti-racism. When we started doing this 4 years ago, anti-racism sort of hadn't been, coined. And so we were just saying, we want to dismantle racism, but it's just so exciting to see it happening in your own organization. And I'm so thrilled for you both. Very, very excited. And you've got the tools to do this work. And I really want to connect at the end of 21 days to hear what you have to say and how you experienced it and how you grew and what people said. And it's a powerful, powerful experience, and you will be changed forever. I'm just excited for you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. Clearly the time is now, that living virtually, and none of that should stop us. If anything, it should motivate us more, that this is a great opportunity and a great time, to start the learning and the journey. So Margaret, we are so grateful to you for your leadership and for making some time today to share your experiences and even help us think about what could be next here for us in New Jersey. I also, and I'm pretty confident that Betty and I will join forces on this one about making racism a public health issue here in New Jersey also, and trying to push that forward here with our governor and our leadership as well. So, we are thankful for all the work you're doing, grateful for the mentorship, grateful for the examples that you're all setting to help the rest of us imagine where we can take our organizations. And Betty, I'm so grateful to have you here locally to be a sister friend. And as I'm looking at Margaret's pillow there.
Yes.
And, to work jointly and, with our fellow leadership here in Northern New Jersey to push this forward. And for those of you watching, the link is here for you to join. Please consider being part of the 21-day Social Justice and Racial Justice Challenge. We encourage you not only to sign yourself up, but to take that link and share it with your friends, your family, share it with your whatever communities you are linked to, whether it's where you are professionally, whether you are spiritually, your yoga class. It doesn't matter where you go. Please tell people about this opportunity and encourage them to join. It can be something that you share as a group, but it also can be a personal process that you go through on your own. And whatever it is, we encourage you to join us. Again, we're kicking off on September 9th, and for 21 business days, we will be sending out a link to you that has either an article, a podcast, a video, and some type of reflection to help us understand power, privilege, racism, all of these issues that systemic racism, implicit bias, everything that we've talked about here today and more. So please join us. And we have a week before we kick off, so we do encourage you to share that information with your networks. Also, the countdown to Election Day is here, folks. There is still time to register. We do encourage you to make sure that you are registered, and make sure that everyone in your network and your circle is registered as well, and that we get everyone out. And make sure that here in New Jersey, as we know, voting by mail is clearly happening here. Make sure, and we will continue to educate you between now and the election about safe ways and how to do that. And the census, we've got a few weeks left to participate in the census. Please make sure if you have not done that yet, we will have links for all of this information here. We'll also have links to Girl Scouts of Northern New Jersey, so you can become aware and become more familiar with all the great programs that Betty and her team are rolling out. We'll also give you a link to Margaret's wonderful program in Ohio. Even if you are not from Ohio, maybe you've got some family or friends there. But it's important to support organizations doing good work wherever it is, because what the work they're doing there is clearly impacting the work that we're doing here. So we encourage you to support and become educated there as well. Please, any young women that are in getting ready for 10th grade, consider joining us for Empower University. Our applications are out right now. It's a 10-month personal, professional, and empowerment program. You can apply online. We'll put the link here for you as well. We're kicking off in September, and we would love to have you. You'll get to meet, over 60 women from our community as mentors, as well as some evidence-based learnings. And I can tell you from the girls who participated in the last 6 years of the program that it is a change maker for the young women. Tomorrow on YWTV, we do have change makers, some young change makers from the Northern Valley Regional High School will be joining us to talk about the changes that they're making around racial and social justice issues in their community. So we look forward to talking to these young people. I know that they're going to be inspired. And on Thursday, we join you to be part of our regular Share the Mic Now project that we've been doing here at the YW, sharing our space with Black women in our community to amplify their voices. And so happy to have with us Natalie Waite, who's the Graduate Student Affairs Director at Stevens Institute of Technology. And she will share her experience as a Black woman and how she's working to elevate their voices. So, folks, we hope you have a great day, a safe day, a healthy day. Again, please register for the challenge. And Margaret, Betty, we'll probably loop back in at some point after it's all over and debrief together on a YWTV. I'd love for us to be able to do that and invite some others. Shout out to Newbridge Medical Center. They're also engaging their entire hospital leadership and their entire hospital professional community to be part of this challenge as well. And again, we encourage all leadership to join us. So everyone stay well, stay connected. Thanks for this time. Here I told the ladies we were only going to talk for 30 minutes. We're well over an hour because it was such a great conversation. And I'm so grateful to them for their time and all of you for joining us. If there was someone in your life that you wished had seen this broadcast, but was not watching today, please don't despair. You can share this with them after the fact. It'll live on our Facebook page. It's an easy share, whether it's directly to them in their box or on your page. So please do so. And join the challenge, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Be well. Bye-bye.